Hi, I'm Eric Mueller. This is a follow-up to a previous post I made about the concept of using overlays in business presentations online. Now the overlay, if you don't recall from the previous prezo, was these little things down here. You know, extra little graphic add-ons that you can put into presentations, and there's a whole host of them, and my intent here is just to kind of get you started with the whole thing. What software do you need to get? What's involved? And how do you prepare and practice for actual presentation. So you don't have to write down the links. Those are going to be in the comment after the first post. And that said, let's go ahead and just kind of jump into it. So I'm going to show you first the two major things you need to bring in. First of all is this software here. It's an open source software, totally free. As you can see, available for multiple operating systems. Go ahead and install it, put it in place. I'm going to show you what this looks like, obviously, in a few minutes. I accepted all the defaults, made no modifications at all. All right. The second one is a little more interesting. This is this company called Uno, and if you watch the video here on the left, it'll give you a bit about the history of the company. Essentially, what this is a community outreach from an organization that develops these overlays for major broadcasters, Warner, ESPN. I mean, we've seen this kind of stuff all over the place, from not just streamers and Twitchers, but every football game you watch online has these types of overlays involved, right? So you set up a free account here, and you'll notice that within the library of things that are freely available, a wide variety of options. You've got a lot of sportsy type of overlays for recording scores, whether it's rugby, soccer, billiards, it's all over the place. You've also got a bunch of these what they call lower thirds, and that's what we're going to focus on a little bit here, where our titles pop up on screen. A lot of these have really cool animations involved with them. All this totally free. And once you set up an account and you've identified a couple of these that you want to try utilizing, you'd go into these and you go ahead and select add to my overlays, and then it sends them to your personal list. So on this one, you'll see my overlays. I have a selection of them. Once you're in it, you can go ahead and click the star, and it just creates a shortcut for favorites. And these are the two that I'm going to be going over today. Now, to understand what they're doing here is kind of interesting. So we're going to step into this one I call the main SE title. And that's the one I just showed you where my little name popped up. So we're going to go ahead and walk into this and see what you can do with it. Now in here, no shortage of options as far as customization goes. You go ahead and pick every color variation you want for all the different types of elements. You go ahead and if you don't like the rounded corners, you go ahead and turn off the rounded corners. It's all up to you. On the main first page here is where you would go ahead and set the text, which is where I set all that. And then over here is a little bit more involved for people that are doing custom presentation and control templates, which we'll get into that a little bit. But for right now, this is what you need to know, is that you go in here, you set up the overlay, you customize it to yourself, and then there are two links up here in the upper right. And this kind of demonstrates what they're doing for you. So there's an output URL, and when you customize the overlay, it's hosted live. But what I mean by that is, take a look at this. If you've got that output URL, I'm going to copy that to my clipboard, and then I'm going to walk into another tab here, and it's delivering this in real time. Let me go ahead and demonstrate that. So let's go ahead and over here. I'm going to change it and just go ahead and just customize that a little bit, right? Change it a little bit, and you'll see a screw up because that apparently didn't. There we go. That should make the change. Boom. Now it goes ahead and updates that live. So this is what it's delivering, all right, via this URL. That is all that they're doing for you. So now let's go ahead and see what it takes to go ahead and implement that into our presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this output URL. And then we're going to come back here and walk over to a spot where we can go ahead and start talking about the interface and adding these things in. So from here, let's go ahead and see. This is the interface. When you first get here, you're going to be pretty empty on the left-hand side. These are scenes. These are essentially stages you can walk through in your presentation. Once you set one up the way you like it, then you're encouraged to just go ahead and right-click and duplicate and build off of those over time. You'll see that I've got this sitting in here already. I'm going to go ahead and delete this and recreate it so you can see what that looks like. So let's go ahead and take that out. And to add that in, it's considered a browser source, is what they call this. All right. So let's go ahead and add a browser source. So under here, under sources, browser, let's call that title. One because it duplicates something else. I'm going to paste that. I'm just going to Control V, put that in there. And boom. Now it's in scene. Now I'm going to go ahead and use the Alt key to crop this down a little bit. So I can go ahead and change the shape of what I'm working with. This is just holding down the Alt while I'm moving my mouse around. And you can put that anywhere you want. That said, what you're looking at here. This is the main interface for OSB, or excuse me, OBS. Wow, I keep getting it wrong. And you got your scenes, you got your sources, you got your audio mixer. When you first start with the program, it's going to be all empty. And when you first start to get going, you're going to want to go ahead and add source, video capture device. This will bring your camera in, just follow the defaults. Audio input capture, follow the defaults. At that point, you should be able to see yourself. You should have the little green bar letting you know that audio is being captured, and you're off to the races. This is where you start building upon these things. So, with just those few clicks, I got this going on here. You could go. Excuse me. I got my the basic title going on. Kind of slick, right? So there's a few more steps that I want to show you as we walk into like adding the agenda. The agenda is a really cool one. And as I'm talking about this, I want to bring up the notion that, especially with business communications, you're going to want to reel it back. Remember, this software is very much promoted to people that do Twitch streaming, game streaming, YouTubes, lots of animations, lots of transitions, exploding stars and wild animated countdowns. Remember how it was back in the day when PowerPoint first came out with all their transitions and you had like the opening curtain and the checkerboard? Reel it back, don't go overboard. My encouragement here is just to kind of keep it simple. You're looking to, enhance, not overwhelm, right? So that said, I'm going to show you one of the cooler elements, and that's bringing in not just the agenda, but the animation with it. So that said, let's go ahead and get back over to the website. So I'm going to go ahead and head back over here into Uno and show you the meeting agenda template. So here, if I walk into it, you've got your configuration where you say, okay, what am I doing here? What are my elements? How many items do I have on my agenda? You've got this here, which essentially is a switch turning it on and off, and that's controlling the animation. Oh, there we go. That's become really important in a moment. You've also got a control element here that says, okay, are we emphasizing any particular item at the time? Are we going to walk through the agenda and highlight things as we go through? Customizing, we got some more color options, justification options, and then over here is more along the lines of screen display. And here I'm going to go ahead and turn off the preview window. You'll see why in a moment. Oh, actually, you know what? Let me go ahead and get back. Let me get that back for a moment. There we go. Okay. I'll turn it off in a second. So here we've got two URLs we're going to use. We've got one is the copy output URL. So we're going to go ahead and copy the output URL. And then in here, we're going to go ahead and go to Sources, Browser, just call this one Agenda 1, light up that URL, hit OK. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and using that Alt key, I'm going to go ahead and crop this thing down so I can shape it, move it to where I want it to be. Pull that off into the corner. If you do not hold the Alt key and you stretch it, you can just go ahead and resize things in general. So let's go ahead and get that over there. And that's all cool. But what I really want to see is I want to see that animation along with it. So to that end, what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and head back over here. I'm going to turn off the preview window, which will make it a bit more manageable. Unfortunately, the preview window also takes off this here. Copying the control URL. So the control URL is a link to as my guess, the control interface for how you manage this. Whether you're turning it on, turning it off, moving your way through the agenda. So we're going to go ahead and copy the control URL. Now I'm going to turn off the preview window. Bring myself over here. And switch back into our interface. Okay, so now that we're back here, let's go ahead and we're going to add a option into our docs down here to control it from within the interface. So that is under Docs, Custom Browser Docs, Agenda, Control V that, and here is a pop-up version of that. I'm going to go ahead and drop this down here. There we go. And so now you should see this. There's a lot of ways that this thing can arrange and play around with itself. But now, within the interface, I can go ahead and turn off, wax on, wax off, it's done. Honestly, that's about as complicated as it has to get. There's a lot more to this, and make no bones about it, there are hundreds upon hundreds of tutorial hours on how to use OBS, how to use overlays. There's customizing of your video. There's all kinds of crazy stuff you can do. But the basics are right there. Beyond that, getting this from this program you're looking at into your Teams, into your Zoom calls, whatnot. That is about as complicated as this little button over here in the right-hand corner center. Start virtual camera. When you click Start Virtual Camera, it opens up essentially another visual display item that you can see within Zoom, within Teams. Instead of selecting your normal camera, you select this virtual camera instead, and then what is appearing here will be broadcast out to the Teams meeting. So there's a little extra coordination. You're going to want to practice it, for sure, particularly with Teams. Teams has a tendency to flip the video to mirror it. There is a workaround for that, which I've posted in the links for this particular comment. But beyond that, that's the basics of how to get started with this. Be perfectly happy to start up a dialogue with anybody that wants to understand more, has any questions around how I've utilized it so far. But that's it. That's as complicated as it has to get. And thank you for attending my TED Talk.